So let's dive into what happened on April 22nd. The tranquility of Bizaran Valley near Pahalgam, that place they call mini Switzerland.
Yeah, beautiful area.
It was just completely shattered. A horrific attack claimed, at least 26 lives? Mostly Indian tourists.
That's right. And it marks it as, well, the deadliest attack in that region
Right.
for over 2 decades. It's a major incident.
And the details coming out are just chilling.
They really are stark. You have gunmen, apparently in military-style camouflage, opening fire on civilians.
And there are these disturbing reports suggesting it wasn't random, that there was a deliberate targeting.
Exactly. Survivors have mentioned things like checks for religious affiliation, demands to recite the Kalma. It points towards, well, a potential religious motivation behind it.
Horrifying. Now, a group called the Kashmir Resistance, TRF, they claimed responsibility.
They did, TRF.
But this group, it's not exactly unknown, is it? It's widely seen as a front.
Yeah, pretty much everyone understands it to be a cover for Lashkar-e-Taiba, LKT, the Pakistan-based group.
Right, LMT. And the attack itself, the level of planning, just the sheer brutality. And there were even reports of body cameras being used, likely for, propaganda later.
Which points to a really concerning level of operational planning and intent. It's sophisticated in a grim way.
And amidst all this, there's the story of Syed Adil Hussain Shah.
Yes, a local Kashmiri Shia Muslim man.
He died trying to intervene.
He did. It's just a tragic reminder of the human cost across the board and the different perspectives, the different people caught up in this.
So the immediate aftermath, things moved fast, didn't they?
Very fast. Security forces deployed immediately. The whole area went into lockdown.
And India's reaction was quite strong.
Very strong condemnation, yeah.
Yeah.
And pointing the finger directly at Pakistan.
Which Pakistan then, denied, predictably, maybe.
They denied involvement, yes, and offered to conduct an investigation. That's often the pattern in these situations.
But India's response went beyond just words this time.
Oh, definitely. We saw some pretty significant non-military actions follow.
Like suspending participation in the Indus Waters Treaty, that's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. That, plus downgrading diplomatic relations, asking Pakistani nationals to leave India.
And Pakistan responded in kind, right? Asking Indian nationals to leave.
They reciprocated, yes. These are serious diplomatic escalations, not moves taken lightly.
And at the same time, on the ground in Kashmir.
You saw a definite step up in security presence, increased counterterrorism operations, reports of detentions, even demolition of properties allegedly linked to militants.
So the whole region is just on edge.
Completely on high alert. And unsurprisingly, all of this has really ratcheted up the tensions between India and Pakistan.
The rhetoric got louder?
Noticeably stronger from both capitals, yes. And reports started coming in about more exchanges of gunfire along the line of control.
The Lala Sea, right, that de facto border.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So any kind of narrative about, things calming down or returning to normalcy in Kashmir, this attack pretty much shattered that.
So if you're following this, you're seeing these headlines. The tension is palpable. The big question really is, why haven't we seen things boil over completely? With tensions this high, what's actually stopping a full-scale military conflict between these two countries, especially given they both have nuclear weapons?
That really is the core question right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And look, the situation is incredibly tense, it's precarious, but the likelihood of a full-blown military assault by India on Pakistan, say in the immediate hours or days after this attack, it remains very low.
Okay, why? What's the main factor?
The primary reason, the elephant in the room, is nuclear deterrence.
Right. Mutual assured destruction. MAND.
Exactly.
MAND.
Let's just quickly unpack that. Sounds terrifying, and it is, but the logic is.
The logic, however chilling, is that any large-scale conventional war between two nuclear-armed states carries an unacceptable risk, the risk that it could escalate to nuclear use.
Leading to just unimaginable destruction for both sides. Catastrophic destruction. Not just for India and Pakistan, but potentially for the whole region, maybe globally. And that potential, that shared risk of utter devastation, acts as a very powerful brake, a restraint against launching an all-out war.
Because the leaders on both sides must know, right?
Yeah.
A nuclear exchange means failure on a scale we can barely comprehend.
Precisely. It's the ultimate failure. And beyond that self-preservation instinct, there's also international pressure.
Ah, yes. The global community wouldn't just sit by.
Absolutely not. You'd see immense diplomatic pressure from major powers, from the UN, urging de-escalation, pulling back from the brink. Nobody wants to see a conflict between two nuclear states. It's a global nightmare scenario.
And we should also mention the economics, shouldn't we? Even short of nuclear war, a conventional war.
Would be economically ruinous for both countries. It would shatter trade, scare off investment, destabilize the entire South Asian economy.
And neither country is exactly swimming in economic resilience right now, are they? They can't really afford that kind of shock.
No, not at all. Which is why, and you see this reflected in analyses and even some official tones, despite the strong words, if India does decide on a military response.
It's likely to be limited, targeted.
That seems the far more probable scenario. We've seen precedents, haven't we, where actions taken back in 2016 and again in 2019. Surgical strikes, limited incursions.
Still, the current language is pretty fiery. India vowing a strong response, and Pakistan's defense minister talking about an imminent Indian incursion, saying they're ready.
It's a very tense war of words, absolutely. A dangerous rhetorical dance, as you might call it. Each side signaling resolve, trying to deter the other.
But the consensus among most experts, despite that rhetoric, is that all-out war is still improbable.
That remains the prevailing assessment, yes. Improbable. Not impossible, mind you. The situation is volatile, but improbable.
So what might these more likely limited military actions actually look like?
Well, you could be looking at things like targeted airstrikes against specific locations, maybe training camps or launch pads, believed to be linked to the group responsible for the attack.
Okay.
Or perhaps smaller scale, maybe covert cross-border operations by special forces, things that send a message but are containable.
And continued skirmishes along the Laos Sea, maybe more intense ones.
That's also quite possible. Intensified border firing, artillery duels. It maintains pressure without necessarily triggering a full invasion.
And if India did take one of these limited actions, how would Pakistan likely react?
Well, Pakistan has been very clear publicly. They say they will retaliate against any Indian military action.
Look, a response is guaranteed.
A response seems highly likely, yes. But just like India, Pakistan would also be calculating carefully. They'd be very aware of that nuclear threshold.
So their response would likely be
Measured? Calibrated? Probably. Aiming to show resolve to impose a cost, but hopefully keeping it below the level that triggers uncontrollable escalation. It's a very dangerous tightrope walk for both sides.
Okay, so just to crystallize this, we have this horrific attack, a massive spike in tensions, really strong rhetoric, diplomatic fallout. But an immediate large-scale war, while maybe not zero risk, is unlikely right now.
That seems to be the case, yes. Primarily because the consequences, ultimately involving nuclear weapons, are just too catastrophic to contemplate rationally.
So our goal here in this deep dive is really to get a handle on this immediate aftermath, understand the pressures, the responses, and crucially, those factors like MAD that are, at least for now, preventing a slide into full-blown conflict between these two nuclear neighbors.
Exactly. Understanding that fragile balance.
Okay, so wrapping things up. We've talked through the terrible events in Bizaran Valley, the attack itself.
And the immediate reactions, both the security clampdown and the diplomatic moves like the Indus Waters Treaty suspension and downgrading ties, very significant steps.
Right. And then we really drilled down into why, despite this peak tension, a full-scale war hasn't erupted, focusing on that critical factor, nuclear deterrence.
That concept of mutual assured destruction, MAD, acting as a sort of grim peacekeeper, making the cost of all-out war basically unacceptable for both sides.
But we also acknowledge that doesn't mean no military action is possible.
No, absolutely not. The possibility of limited, targeted strikes or intensified border skirmishes remains very real. The situation is still incredibly volatile and unpredictable.
It's crucial to remember that, isn't it? Even with nukes acting as a deterrent, there's still so much risk.
Huge risk. Miscalculation, misinterpretation, and accident. In this kind of heightened environment with strong rhetoric and military posturing, things could spiral very quickly. It's a precarious situation.
Which underscores the importance of, well, diplomacy.
Absolutely vital. International efforts to de-escalate, to open channels for dialogue, are more critical than ever right now, trying to pull things back from the edge.
So thinking beyond this immediate crisis, it does force you to consider the bigger picture, doesn't it?
It really does. You have these deep-rooted, long-standing issues between India and Pakistan, this constant cycle of tension and occasional conflict, and the ever-present nuclear shadow.
Which leads to the question, what kind of long-term solutions could possibly offer a path towards genuine, lasting stability in this region? It seems so intractable sometimes.
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? And beyond just finding solutions, what role can the international community realistically play in helping foster that kind of stability? Something beyond just crisis management when things flare up like this.
It's a massive challenge, a deeply complex situation with enormous implications, something definitely worth keeping in mind as you continue to follow how this unfolds.